Folks, let's talk about history. Specifically ancient wonders, the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Sounds impressive, right? Like a VIP list for things so amazing they just had to be cataloged. But here's a little secret, most of them are gone, vanished. Poof, like my New Year's resolutions by February, or like a politician's promise the day after the election. It's almost like ancient is code for good luck finding it, pal. Think about it. We have 7 of these supposed marvels. The pyramids of Giza, okay, credit where it's due, those guys are still hanging around, but the rest, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, more like the hanging on by a thread of historical evidence gardens. The Colossus of Rhodes, collapsed. Statue of Zeus at Olympia, gone. Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, bits and pieces. Lighthouse of Alexandria, ditto. It's a terrible track record, frankly. So buckle up, folks, because we're about to excavate some seriously old dirt, with a healthy dose of modern-day bewilderment. Alright, so who was this Artemis, and why did she deserve a temple that made other temples look like garden sheds? Artemis, folks, was a Greek goddess, and not just any goddess. She was the goddess of the hunt, wild animals, wilderness, childbirth, and chastity. Quite the portfolio, wouldn't you say? Imagine that on a business card. Artemis, chastity, and wild animals. Office hours. Whenever I feel like it. She was Apollo's twin sister, daughter of Zeus and Leto. Basically, she was from a very well-connected family. The kind of family that expects big things from you, like, say, a colossal marble temple. Now, the Ephesians, the folks living in the ancient city of Ephesus, located in modern-day Turkey, really liked Artemis, or more accurately, their version of Artemis. Their Artemis wasn't just the bow and arrow-toting virgin goddess you see in most Greek statues. The Ephesian Artemis, sometimes identified with an earlier Anatolian goddess named Cybele, was a multi-breasted fertility figure. Yes, you heard that right. Multi-breasted. It was a bold look, even for ancient deities. It certainly made her stand out in the Olympian family photos. So, the Ephesians decided they needed a temple that would knock the sandals off every visitor. The first truly grand temple, sometimes called the Croesus Temple because King Croesus of Lydia, a man so rich his name became synonymous with wealth, chipped in a considerable amount of cash. Construction began around 550 BC. Now, building something this enormous in the 6th century BC wasn't like assembling IKEA furniture, folks. There were no power tools, no laser levels, no helpful YouTube tutorials, just thousands of workers, a lot of heavy lifting, and probably some very grumpy architects. This temple was primarily made of marble. So much marble. Marble everywhere. It was designed by the Cretan architect Chersiphron and his son Metagenes. Imagine that father-son dynamic. The temple was huge, reportedly over 377 feet long and 180 feet wide, with more than 120 massive marble columns, each about 60 feet high. Some of these columns were even carved with life-sized figures. So how did this oversized marble masterpiece make it onto the ancient world's most exclusive list, the 7 Wonders? Well, folks, it wasn't like there was an official committee with clipboards and judging criteria. Right, Temple of Artemis, impressive column height, good use of marble, but the gift shop is a bit lacking. Points deducted. No, these lists were more like ancient BuzzFeed articles. 7 structures so awesome you won't believe they exist, until they don't. They were compiled by various Greek historians and writers like Herodotus and Callimachus of Cyrene, who were essentially the travel bloggers and influencers of their day. The Temple of Artemis consistently made the cut because, well, it was genuinely astounding for its time. Its sheer size, as we've discussed, was a major factor. In a world where most buildings were made of mud brick or wood, a colossal structure of gleaming marble was the ancient equivalent of a spaceship landing in your backyard. It was a testament to human ingenuity, wealth, and the ability to persuade a lot of people to lift very heavy stones. Section 5, Quirky Temple Facts. You won't believe number 3, actually you might. Alright folks, time for some trivia that will make you the life of your next toga party, assuming you attend those. The Temple of Artemis wasn't just big and shiny, it had some peculiar features. For instance, it also served as a bank. Yes, a bank. People would deposit their money and valuables there for safekeeping because, you know, who's going to rob a goddess? Especially one known for her archery skills and affinity for wild bears. It was probably safer than stuffing your drachmas under your mattress, especially if your mattress was made of straw and occasionally caught fire. Financial security, ancient Greek style. Here's another fun one. The temple was built on marshy ground. Now you might think, Stephen, that sounds like a terrible idea. Building a massive marble structure on a swamp? Are you nuts? And you'd be right, it does sound nuts. Section 6. Herostratus. Or How to Get Famous the Wrong Way, folks. Now every great story needs a villain, or at least a colossal idiot. And the story of the Temple of Artemis has a doozy. His name was Herostratus. Remember that name, folks, because he's the reason we can't have nice, ancient things. So there's this magnificent temple, the pride of Ephesus, a wonder of the world gleaming in the Mediterranean sun. And Herostratus, a young man of no particular distinction, decides he wants to be famous. He wants his name to echo through the ages. A noble ambition, perhaps, if pursued through, say, art or philosophy, or inventing a really good type of olive oil. But Herostratus wasn't interested in the slow burn of legitimate achievement. No, he wanted instant viral fame, ancient world style. So on July 21st, 356 BC, a date which will live in infamy, or at least in obscure history textbooks, Herostratus set fire to the wooden roof beams of the Temple of Artemis. The blaze spread, and the magnificent marble marvel with all its art and splendor was largely destroyed. Why? For fame. He confessed under torture, ancient HR practices were a bit harsh, that he did it so his name would be known throughout the world and for all time. Section 7, Temple 2.0 - bigger, better, still surprisingly flammable. You have to give it to the Ephesians, folks. They were resilient, or maybe just really stubborn. Their world-famous temple, a source of immense pride and probably a decent chunk of their GDP, had just been torched by a fame-hungry pyromaniac. Lesser cities might have thrown in the towel, maybe put up a nice memorial plaque and called it a day. Here lay the Temple of Artemis. It was nice while it lasted, blame Herostratus, but not Ephesus. Oh no, they decided to rebuild, and not just rebuild, but rebuild bigger and even more spectacularly. Because if there's one thing humans are good at, it's doubling down. Legend has it that on the very night Herostratus was busy with his arson, Alexander the Great was born. Later, Alexander, during his conquests, would offer to pay for the temple's reconstruction if the Ephesians would dedicate it to him. The Ephesians, ever so diplomatically, declined. Section 8, the slow fade to how a wonder becomes a Wikipedia stub. So, Temple number 2, the bigger, badder Temple of Artemis, enjoyed a good run. A few centuries of being generally awesome. But folks, the ancient world was a rough neighborhood, and empires, like celebrity marriages, rarely last. The first major blow to this new temple came in 268 AD. A bunch of Goths, no, not the ones who wear black eyeliner and listen to moody music. These were actual Germanic tribes on a raiding spree, sailed down the Aegean and sacked Ephesus. And what's a good sacking without a little light temple desecration and looting? The temple was damaged, plundered, another setback. You can almost hear the Ephesians sighing, again? Really? Then came the rise of Christianity. Now, the early Christians, bless their hearts, weren't huge fans of pagan temples dedicated to multi-breasted goddesses, or any pagan goddesses for that matter. As Christianity became the dominant religion of the Roman Empire, the old gods in their temples fell out of favor, and by fell out of favor, I mean they were often actively suppressed, closed down, or repurposed. In 391 AD, Emperor Theodosius V officially outlawed pagan worship. This was pretty much the death knell for places like the Temple of Artemis. Section 9. If Artemis had an Instagram, the temple in the modern age. So what if, by some miracle, the Temple of Artemis had survived? What if it was still standing today in all its marble glory? Imagine the tourist trap, folks. It would be magnificent. First off, the admission fee would be astronomical. That'll be 75 euros and an extra 20 if you want to see the old rocks. There'd be a Starbucks in the cella, probably a McDonald's in the Opisthatomos. You know, for authenticity. The gift shop would be legendary. Mini multi-breasted Artemis statues, I survived the Ephesian Sun t-shirts, Herostratus dartboards. The possibilities are endless. Think of the Instagram potential. #Artemis Temple, #wonder of the world, #ancient bling, #blessed. Influencers would flock there, posing artfully by the massive columns, probably doing yoga poses for some reason, feeling so centered and divine at this ancient sanctuary. Use my code Artemis15 for 15% off your next sacrificial goat. Plush toy version only, folks, we're civilized now. The local economy would boom, not just from pilgrims, but from selfie stick vendors and purveyors of overpriced bottled water. It would be a glorious, chaotic, commercialized spectacle. And honestly, isn't that the modern dream for any ancient monument? Of course, there would be challenges, maintenance for one. Keeping a giant marble structure from crumbling in the 21st century is no small feat.